Hi, my name is Matthew Ayers. I'm interviewing Mr. Herb Hilliard. We are at 1674 Honeysuckle Drive. The date is May 3rd, 2011, and the time is 12:17 p.m. How you doing today, Mr. Hilliard?
Oh, pretty good, very well.
Excellent. All right, let's start off. Were you born in Mansfield?
Well, I was born in Elkhart, Indiana.
All right. Did you remember when your family settled in Mansfield, or when they came to Mansfield?
Well, my family, where I came to Mansfield, because, well, my first wife was from Mansfield, and she went to school in Elkhart. That's where I met her. Then, well, her dad was a foreman at the steel mill, and I was able to find employment in Mansfield.
All right. So, do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I had one brother, and one sister. And my sister, she's passed now, but my brother, he still lives in Indiana, in South Bend, Indiana.
So, what was your life like in your family growing up?
It was real nice. Well, I mean, growing up, well, in my home, it was like, well, probably like Mansfield too. You had a lot of segregation going on, but still, he lived a good life. He lived a real good life. My dad was a steel worker. My mom, she was a homemaker. But she worked some job cleaning, house cleaning and whatnot, but she was a very active person, and she was pretty active in community affairs.
You said your father worked at a steel mill in India?
He was a foreman at the steel mill.
Do you remember the name of the steel mill you worked at?
New York Central.
All right, so where did you go to school at?
Well, the first school I went to in grade school was Southside School, which was I'd say segregated because it was an all-black school.
Okay, and that was in Indiana, right?
And then we had junior high school, which was integrated, and senior high school integrated. That's Elkhart, it's called Elkhart Senior, and Roosevelt Junior High.
Were there any teachers you remember especially well?
Oh, yes. I know my principal, who was black. Her name was Drusilla Mallory, and I think she was from Cleveland, Ohio. And I had another teacher, her name was Mabel Roberts. She was from Terre Haute, Indiana. Anyway, like I say, and I had all female teachers. Growing up, and I lived in an integrated neighborhood, but like I went to Southside School, and then I had a white neighbor that went to Hawthorne School, which was maybe 2 or 3 blocks away, but we were just like, the schools were kind of segregated, like in certain areas.
Were you involved in any activities in school?
Yeah, I played a little football, and mostly, and I never played basketball, but I was in a little bit of track. That's about it.
All right, what year did you graduate from high school?
Oh, I was back in the it's been a long time ago, somewhere in the late 40s, I guess. And I moved to the exact year.
Okay. So did you go to college after then? You went to high school?
No.
No? Okay. Where was your first job at?
My first job was a foundry. So, one place called Chicago Hardware, and another There's Sterling Brass Foundry in Elkhart. But that was it. And then I did odd jobs. I did some work at for the Miles, people who own Alka-Seltzer and Miles Nervine, whatnot, which is located in Elkhart. And that was just about. And as the jobs, I worked bowling alley, setting pins. And at that time, when I worked at bowling alley, when I started off, we have what you call American Bowling Congress Association. Blacks weren't part of it. And I was one of just about the first, when they did change things, I was one of the first sanctioned bowlers in the state.
Do you remember what year that was at all?
About 1950, I think it was.
Excellent. All right. Well, when did you actually come to Mansfield?
1956.
1956. All right. So, did you just come here for a job opportunity? Was that the reason you came to Mansfield, or what was the reason? I guess I should say.
Yeah. Yes. My first wife's dad was a foreman at the steel mill, and he got me on, you might say, working the steel mill.
Okay. Do you remember where you moved to when you relocated to Mansfield?
In 1956.
Okay. Do you remember where you lived at when you first moved here?
Oh yes, I remember. I stayed with my father-in-law and mother-in-law on Charles Street in Mansfield.
Do you remember what the neighborhood was like back then?
Yes, I remember well. It was pretty nice, actually.
What were some of the things you remember about it?
Well, I don't know. Everybody seemed to get along well. But one of the things I remember when I came here, one of my fondest memories is when Dr. King was at Mount Hermon's church where his uncle was pastor.
Excellent.
And I remember being outside when I saw what people describe, well, sort of, you might say, flying saucers or something. I stepped outside my house and I saw these, was outside at night and saw all these, well, you might call it saucers. Anyway, that was an experience. That was back in 1956 or so. And I guess somebody else had spoke about the sightings of these, this phenomenon, whatever you want to call it. But and I can remember a whole lot of things growing up, I mean, since I've been to Mansfield, that kind of caught my attention. So that was just one of them. So.
Yeah, please, would you any more you'd like to tell us about?
You're talking about most of just my experiences in Mansfield, really.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because, I mean, yeah, well, frankly, yeah, we had a whole lot of the same conditions in Mansfield that I had in Elkhart for as conditions and everything, and like, well, I worked at steel mill for a little over a year, and then I got laid off, so I went to work at Bob Warner's, which was called Ingersoll Humphreys, and I worked there, like I say, for just about a year, and well, experience it. Well, I worked at steel mill for 37.5 years.
Do you remember any particular stories about working there?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Any ones you'd care to share?
Okay. I started off in the steel mill in one department. Now, basically, when you started the steel mill, you had to go from the labor gang on and then bid on a job in another department. But I was fortunate enough to have all department seniority because of the job what I was hired to do. And well, I got a chance to meet a lot of real nice people. Then I had some bad experience from here and there, but my kids were small, and I had to take a lot of stuff that I wouldn't take if I was just a single man.
Right.
You know. But you know, I talk about, you know, the question you asked me about Mansfield. You know, in this interview, I kind of wanted to mention a few questions about just before I came here, if it's not too, you know, like, you know, I guess you're supposed to be asking the question, but I was thinking about when I got drafted into the Army, and you know, Howard got to come to Mansfield to begin with. And I was drafted into the Army when I got out, and then that's when I met my wife and everything. And when I came to Mansfield, okay, I immediately joined a veterans organization, American Legion, and then we started a VFW post, and I was very active in that field. Later on, I became American Legion commander, and I had, well, you might say I had some mentors. I had a fellow named Bob Wheeler and Winston Green, who headed our department for a while, and I learned a lot from these individuals, and I'm still a part of the American Legion. And I have all my life I've engaged in different sports. You asked me, you mentioned later on, but I'm talking about since coming out of school, like boxing and bowling. Basically, those are some of the main things I did: boxing, bowling, and keeping up with baseball. And well, growing up in my home, we had what you call a Booker T. Washington Community Center, where we engage in table tennis. I boxed every Wednesday and Friday, and pitching horseshoe. Most of these things I'm talking about, I excelled in. And anyway, I had a lot of good experiences growing up, and one of them was seeing the first game Jackie Robinson played as a member of the Brooklyn Dodgers in Wrigley Field in Chicago. I was present in the first game, and anyway, that was just one of them, and I got a chance to meet up with the original Harlem Globetrotters, Lou Statham, Marcus Haynes, Sweetwater Clifton. Well, these were the originals, and I got a chance to see the old Negro League ball players, such as Satchel Paige and Papa Bell, and there's just so many of the great athletes. And when it came to boxing, I my favorite boxers was Joe Louis and Sugar Ray Robinson. Those are my favorite. And I don't know, like I say, in my association with the Booker T. Washington Community Center, it was a neighborhood thing, and everybody in the neighborhood were pretty close. Now, we had one of the guys that I boxed against. He went on to train one of the lighter weight champions of the world, and his brother, who later on married a cousin of mine, he played professional football. A fellow named Erich Barnes. He played professional football with the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, and the Chicago Bears. But what I mean is just some of the experience. And growing up, I wanted to get into the conversation, and I got a chance to meet with my favorite blues singer, who was Daniel Washington. I was in Seattle, Washington. This is when I was in the Army. I was in the Korean War, which I got drafted in 1952. And like I told you earlier, I later on became a commander of the American Legion. And I only spent 21 and a half months in Korea, but because of the 21 and a half months in the Army, because of the length of time I spent in Korea, and this was during the wartime. And another one of my favorite experiences was getting to see President Truman when he was putting in his bid for the presidency of the United States. So, but I don't know. This interview, it's so many things I could think, but I try to answer the questions you gave them to me, and maybe I'm a little bit off, but I'll try to answer anything else you give me.
Please, now continue.
But those are just some of my favorite experiences. Matter of fact, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, I was selling extras, but I didn't particularly know what it was. But all I know is I was making a nickel or two, a dime or two anyway.
I'm sorry, what were you selling now?
When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, I sold extras.
Actually, okay, what are those then?
Well, extras, a little slip of paper, like extras read all about it when something happens catastrophic or whatnot, and they give you these little papers, to sell on the street, and they're called extras. Extra read all about it, Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor, whatnot. So that was one of the things that I can remember. And like I say, this interview, I can't get everything in, but I try to answer what you give to me.
Okay, well, let's see. So do you remember some of the stores and the restaurants in your neighborhood when you came to Mansfield?
Yeah, they had this one little place. I know I lived on Lily Street, and you may have heard the story or not. They had a place called the Cameo. And on this at the Cameo, well, they had a side entrance set up for blacks, and you weren't allowed to go in the front door, but they would take your money, but you you had to go through the side entrance.
No, was this a restaurant then? Was that what this was?
It was a bar and a restaurant too, I guess, in something in that order. And of course I remember back when I came here, I guess Mansfield was kind of wide open. You had all the dives and stuff on Main Street there, and They had a kind of wide open gambling and whatnot, and they had a little prostitution and all that, but I guess politics kind of changed a lot of that. But, you know, it was more wide open. So sometimes I wonder if if the reason it was wide open because the people who were operating were paying off somebody at the top. But
so was there quite a bit of that kind of stuff going on? Do you remember?
there's quite a bit. And then when I guess you call it political change, once another party got in, I think the Democrats were in at the time, and once the other party come in, they cleaned up a lot of that downtown.
Do you remember about what time that was at all?
I would say that was, from now, about 30 years ago. At least that 30 years ago. So this was all going on, I'm sure, before I come here in the early 50s, probably 40s on up. And it was still going on when I came to Mansfield.
So where was the cameo that you mentioned? Where exactly was that?
The cameo, let's see. I'm getting myself a little bit exact location. Okay. So cameo, I think I was on Harker Street. Harker Street.
Maybe the corner of Harker and Lily there? Or
right.
Is it, okay.
There you go.
Okay.
That was on the corner of Harker and Lily Street. That's exactly where it was, because I lived on Lily Street for a while.
Okay.
Remember any of the other businesses around the area at all? Do you remember? Or any ones in particular?
Well, they had, I guess things were similar, because they had the Rose Bowl, which was on Bowman Street, I think it is, and then they had what you call a corner lunch. That was on, I think that was right there on Main Street. But anyway, I could probably think of a lot of more. But that's about it. You know, for a come up with, because you had several places like what you call a main cottage on Main Street. That was basically a black business right down from what was known as a Blue Note, and
so do you have any particular memories of the Blue Note at all? Any of the performers that came through?
Yes, I have memories of Blue Note. Because we've had some name entertainers come to the Blue Note from time to time, like Nancy Wilson and I think it was Bill Dogger. But anyway, they had several name entertainers that come to the Blue Note, and so one in particular, I'm trying to think of his name, but they had some pretty decent entertainers there. Okay, I'll tell you one of them. Oh, again, all I know, he was a jazz artist, and he used to come here quite often.
Was it Grover Washington?
Grover Washington. Boy, that's exactly.
Okay.
Grover Washington. Yeah. You already got all this. Yeah, Grover Washington. He'd been to Mansfield several times. I got a chance to meet up with him too.
I also heard Rusty Bryant played there.
Rusty Bryant. Okay.
Yeah, we'd heard about the Nancy Wilson.
All right.
Yeah. I understand James Brown played, not necessarily the Blue Note, but he played is it the CIO Club, or I can't remember what it was.
Oh, they had people that come came here later in the later years and played in like down to, Park Avenue, the Renaissance and whatnot.
Sure.
But in the earlier days, those are the ones that I was telling you about.
All right, so how's the neighborhood different today?
Well, more job opportunities and better jobs opportunities.
Now you're talking about back then there was?
I'm talking about, you said how's it different?
Yeah, how's it different today from then?
Today is better job. You know, because I remember at the steel mill, we didn't have any black crane operators and electricians. Most of the jobs, well, but that all changed due to the fact that government jobs, in order for them to have to obtain government jobs, they had to hire more minorities, and those jobs were discriminated against had to be opened up, and so that's when things started to change. Then we had several black crane operators, millwrights, and what have you. But still, I mean, it was still the governmental changes that caused so many things to open up. In other words, to get these contracts, they had to make some changes.
So, all right. So yeah, what was life like for African Americans in Mansfield then in the 50s and the 60s?
Oh, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. Opportunity, doors open up, and of course, you can tell you can see a whole lot of the changes, just like the fact that we have a black mayor and the fact that we have a black judge. All these things that shows you where things have started to turn around. And well, in other, of course, I guess they've had black doctors for some time, but things have changed around. The opportunities has opened up. Now the biggest thing, you know, if you got the education, you got a chance to make, you know, progress.
So do you remember the civil rights movement at all in Mansfield?
What's that?
Do you remember anything about the civil rights movement at all in Mansfield?
I don't know a lot. All I know is about the NAACP, but what I mean is, other than that, all I know is this: that we've managed to come a long ways. We've made a whole lot of progress, basically.
Racial bias question.
Oh, yes. Did racial bias affect you in any way when you were here in Mansfield? Did racial bias affect you in any way?
Yeah. Not too much. I don't guess. I managed to deal with it.
Yeah.
Whatever came my way, but still, I can't say it affect me. Well, I guess it has affect me some, but I've managed to deal with things as they come along. So.
Do you remember any examples of civil rights activities that were going on in Mansfield at all?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, you know, I say there's several of them. I don't know, just get down on one of them, but it's several occasions for that. But I try to involve myself in things, you know, what's happening, and I don't know. I have saw all of them about the civil rights activity. That I've saw a lot of progress. So that's so. I don't just get down on any one, but being here for 50-some years, I've saw a lot of progress from the time that I came to Manfield.
What about folks like O.C. Hill and Jack Middlebrook and some
Oh,
of the
yes,
any
yeah.
memories of those guys?
Yes, Jack Middlebrook, he was, Jack Middlebrook and O.C. Hill, they contributed very, very much in the change. Of course, I know even with J.D. Middlebrook, they had a struggle just getting on the school board and whatnot, you know. So, but like I say, matter of fact, my first home that I purchased was through J.D. Middlebrook. So, you know.
Now, a lot of the elders that we spoke to have said that back then some folks had trouble getting loans, that there was redlining going on. Did you experience any of that?
No, not really. I didn't experience a lot of trouble getting loans because I moved several times, but I've managed to do pretty well. Because my first wife, my second wife, both of them, you know, they did most of the paperwork, but they both were pretty good in handling these affairs. My thing was just making that shift every day.
Mm-hmm. But there was never any issues in terms of like what I'm specifically referring to is, you know, because of race, not being able to, you know, banks not lending to blacks or any of that kind of experiences or.
I didn't experience too much of that now.
That's good.
And I've been fortunate enough throughout the years to have a pretty fair credit rating. I mean, records. But I can't say that it ain't all been that easy, but still. You know, I do remember slightly that when I came here, you know, it wasn't easy in certain areas for blacks to move into. That has improved quite a bit. And now you can move just about wherever you can afford. So
do you remember what any of those areas in particular?
Not too much. I mean, you know, you got different areas of town, like say Woodland and different areas. Of what I mean, because I understand the fact that you in order to do that, you need to be kind of financially endowed. In other words, to move in these areas, they need a decent income. But if you got that income, you should be able to move wherever you see fit.
All right, so tell us about your church.
About my what?
About your church.
I'm sorry.
The church you attend?
Oh, yeah, well, I started off, I was with Matt Ayers, which was with my first wife, which was called Temple of Faith. It was over on Diamond Street. Then they closed that down, and then it became Matt Ayers Memorial on Walker Lake Road. But anyway, my home, I was raised up as a Baptist. I went to Canaan Baptist Church in Elkhart, Indiana. Mom seen to we went to Sunday school every Sunday, growing up, and I still go to Sunday school. And now I belong to Shiloh Full Gospel over on 2nd Street, and Bishop Morris. But that's in my church. Like I say, we go to church every Sunday. Pay our tithes. The second wife, you know, and of course this is my second marriage. I was married for 31 years, the first marriage, before my wife passed. I've been married for 22 years, I think be 23 years next week. So, anyway, I was married for 23 years and 31 the first time around, but anyway, you're asking me, but that's about it. Oh, and I had 4 kids in my first marriage, and 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4 of them are still living. And second one, I got 2 stepsons and 1 stepdaughter who's a lawyer and law partner in St. Louis, Missouri. But other than that, this pretty much covers everything. But I mean, what I mean is, as far as like you asked me about my church, where right now I'm a member of Shiloh Full Gospel.
Okay, so what is the role of the church in your community?
What is the role?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a religious church, but I don't know what you mean by what's the role of the church. You know, I can't understand.
What role does the church play in the community? What do they bring to the community?
No more religion, but anyway, we're a very religious organization, and they help out wherever they need it, and just like when another church is down, they always try to do what they can to help support the other churches.
So tell us about your fondest memory of when you were living in Mansfield.
I find this my fondest memories are my fondest memories are some of the people I've met since I've been here. Basically, some of the people that I don't know. I kind of like practically everybody. I can't find too many people that I have disliked since I've been in Mansfield. And I often think about my father-in-law, who was a foreman at the steel mill for my first marriage. You know, when I came to Mansfield, it was kind of, I don't know, I didn't know how my first wife's people would take to me. And my first wife's sister, she is the wife of a pastor of Maddox Memorial, Elder Aaron Williams. Well, my first wife's, that's her sister. But the dad, my father's memory is, he kind of looked a little bit mean. I was a little frightened of him. But he turned out to be one of the nicest people I ever met. He's just the grumpy-looking attitude, you know what I mean? I'm coming in here and marrying his daughter and all that, you know. But still, my fondest memory is being, I don't know, is the way that the family took to me. You know, I came in the Mansfield and they opened the arms up to me, and that to me that was a fun memory, you know. And like I say, the people that I've met since I've been here, I've just met a lot of good people, You know, when just like a friend of mine, I was telling you about Sammy Dunn. He's a wonderful person.
He's a good guy, yeah.
And the Alexander fellow used to talk about who I worked with for most of my years at the steel mill. And I don't know, it's just that I've met a lot of good people since I've been here. And my biggest hobby is bowling. I still bowl, and I started bowling at 12 years old. and I'm, well, 79 now, and I still carry a pretty good average. So, but still, you know, I don't know. It's just that. Well, let's put it like this. I like people, and I'm kind of like a people person, and it's just that, well, it almost covers it.
Do you have a worse memory at all?
Huh?
Do you have a worse memory of Mansfield at all?
Yeah.
Or a couple? I mean,
I have a few of those. One of my worst memories is I was working at the mill, you know, and the foreman who he's been passed some time ago, named her, well, no names anyway. I was working this job in my department, and I don't know, I had to go to the restroom or someplace. Anyway, he comes down and he chews me off for not being there. Well, I sat up and listened to him. See, I had taken a lot of stuff because my kids were all small and everything, and I said, well, I just sit up and see. Well, like I said, well, I'd been in the Korea, fought in the Korean War, and I said to myself, now you've had your say, so give me a chance to say something. Legislated on my behalf, so he jumps down. And when I started to say something, he told me to shut up. I guess that kind of got to me, you know. Hey, you know what I mean? I listened to what he had to say. I guess I put my hand back, and I was getting ready to kind of let him have it. And the guys, and the guys I worked with, next thing you know, they had my arm. That probably saved me my job. I mean, that probably stopped me from getting fired right then and there, because I was just getting ready to let go. But after that, I guess the big guy was kind of shaken too. After that, the guy seemed to treat me, things got a lot better for as he was concerned. But I don't have a whole lot of real bad memories. I guess there's hardly anybody don't have some bad ones. Because I guess some of my worst memories was when I was in the service, you know. But other than that, you know, I often think about, I've been out of service for, about 57 years. And out of those 57 years, I always tell people, we had these general orders 11 general orders, which you learn when you're in the service. And I never forgot one of them after 50-something years. So, but still, you know, it's just that, you know, some things you can kind of hold on to. But I don't know, most of my memories are on the pretty good side. I mean, I'm still around 39 years to be able to talk about it. His birthday was just yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday, happy belated birthday.
Yeah, sure. And got an anniversary coming up next Monday.
Well, was there anything else you'd like to add we haven't covered at all? Anything else you'd like to talk about?
I think I got everything was pretty well covered, you know. So all the mistakes I've probably made in this interview. But anyway, I kind of enjoyed it. There's a lot of things that you were talking about. It you can't get everything in, but I try to do the best I could in telling you things, in my life that But
can you tell us anything about like what like working in the mill, what that was like?
Well, it wasn't too bad, but before the government kind of came in there, it wasn't the greatest, because sometimes you can segregate amongst yourself, because we had a brick place where we went, where they had the units and all that stuff. You had two sides off here. We had a black man taking care of both sides, and like the blacks would be on one side and the whites would be on another. And we had the same thing in where we changed clothes at, down in the melt shop. You had like separate rest areas or whatnot. But all that eventually changed, whereas they enlarged your other area, and everybody went the same place. We had a locker side by side. So, well, like I say, when I first went there, the locker room, what I was in was all black. But that did change over a period of time. We got there's still some changes that might need to be made, but still, I've saw a lot of progress. Now I never covered all this, but growing up, when I was telling you about my dad worked for the railroad. Well, my dad didn't do much traveling, but my mother took us every place. She wore a name, but I've been on trains whereas the conductors would send the white one way and the black another way. In other words, we didn't have integrated coaches. That was New York Central. We had what you call an annual pass. You had an annual pass, took you as far as Chicago, going west, and New York, going east. Okay? And in the annual pass, we had what you call a 20th Century Limited and other trains on this. Whereas if you had you stop maybe in, like, going toward Chicago, you stop in Gary, South Bend. If you're going to New York, you stop in Toledo, Cleveland, and maybe Sandusky, and then Erie, Pennsylvania, and all the cities going east, the major cities. But in the annual pass, you'd have to stop in Port Clinton and all the other little towns, but it wasn't costing you nothing. But still, going south in different places, like the sleeping quarters wasn't open to blacks and Pullman cars and all that, but they were open to whites. But in other words, you had a segregation on some of your lines. And on the trip pass, we were able to go from one line to another, like, say, New York Central, Illinois Central, and Pennsylvania, and they take off a little slip. But that was agreement was made between all the different lines. But still, I saw going soft. I was just a youngster then, and I was able to see all the segregation on the railroad, on some of the railroad lines. But then again, so much of the stuff I didn't quite understand. But growing up, I got a chance to see it. But like I said, all that changed eventually. But yeah, but when I see these things happening now and how much things have changed, I'll tell you, it enlightens me because I grew up in a time that it was just a whole lot of segregation, you know. But like I say, just like I told you about bowling, but things have changed. Maybe not as fast as I would like to saw them change, but things have changed, and I'm just thankful. I feel I've lived in different areas, because you know I think about when I was growing up, my family had one of the first to have TVs. Like we had, I think it was a month. You had all the different colors in your TV, and especially on your cheaper TVs and everything. And I remember when the big thing was talked about Dick Tracy two-way radio, and you had talk about Buck Rogers and all these people, and Flash Gordon and all these people, and all this stuff has come to reality. The two-way wrist radio, that's something that's obsolete now, but still. and we've been to the moon since in my livelihood, so hey, I've been a witness to these changes, and I got a chance to grow up, like I say, in an era, so like I feel like I've lived in 2 or 3 generations, to be honest with you, and to see how far we've come. Way beyond me, because the internet and the alternate and all these different things is just exciting. I don't know. It's like, but I tell you, it's been some venture.
Now you mentioned the segregation that you experienced on the railroad. Was there any of that kind of stuff that you experienced while you were in Mansfield?
No. All that was all those was growing up, you know.
When you were young.
Because when my first remembrance when I was growing up is the first place I lived at that I can remember was next to coal. Dock coal yard, close to where my dad worked at, and I remember some of the people used to steal coal, but you had the coal stoves and all that, and we had the wicks and the lamps. That's what we had, and even our cooking stove. We didn't have all that gas and electricity. I mean, I didn't grow up under that, and we also, I haven't mentioned it, I had what you call an outdoor job.
Oh yeah.
And that's my first growing up, when I was just a little one. To see
that was
all those memories, huh?
That was in Indiana.
In Indiana,
Yeah.
yes. But
yeah, we've talked to people that actually lived out on the north side, kind of further out by the steel mill, that had outhouses and stuff.
But you know, like I say, some of the stuff. My mom's only been dead. My mom's been dead about, I'd say about 15 years. But a whole lot of that stuff, all this stuff what we got now wasn't existent when she passed.
Sure.
I just think how she would be excited to see some of the stuff, how things have changed.
Yeah.
And they're still changing. I'd like to hope for the better.
Did you have any other?
I think covered pretty much everything I had. Yeah.
Well, nothing else you'd like to add, or is that we're pretty much out of questions at this point? You told us a lot of good stuff.
No, I don't know. I'd like to be a little bit more polished in what I was talking about, but still,
no, it was very good.
It was good. It was real good.
But it's I don't know if I was doing this because, you know, my wife had written down some of the stuff on there, but
Yeah.
still, a lot of it I don't think is on there. But I like to think of my experiences, not just since I've been here before I came to
Mansfield.
Mansfield.
Yeah.
No, I've been here for 50, ever since 56, I guess. I've been here for quite a few years, I guess. I got a son living in Atlanta, Georgia. That's my oldest boy. He was a twin. I lost one of my daughters. She's 9 years old.
Sorry to hear that.
She was a twin. I had a boy and a girl twins.
Yeah. I'm actually a twin myself, so.
Huh?
I said I'm actually a twin
Oh,
myself.
really?
Yeah, yeah.
But you probably two boys, though.
Yeah, 2 boys. Yeah.
I have a brother and sister that are twins.
Yeah.
A boy and a girl. So.
And my first wife's sister was a twin. It was a boy and a girl. And then she had a sister that had twins. I think it was a boy and a girl. So it's been a lot of twins.
That must be a Mansfield thing, I suppose, right?
Huh?
That must be a Mansfield thing, huh?
I don't know about that. I wouldn't know about that. Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
You know, as there's my pictures of my first. My kids are all grown now. What you see on that picture there?
Those are great photos.
Yeah, those are.
Now, is that over on the north side, over Lily Street area, or is that where did you raise your kids? Where did you guys live?
All over.
All over.
Yeah, 'cause I lived on Lily Street. I lived on Bowman Street. I lived on Charles Street. I live on Bell Avenue.
Okay, so you were all over.
Yeah, but I've been here for 20-some years.
Have you?
Over 20 years, but I'm talking about, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. I lived on West 5th Street.
Okay.
A couple times on Bowman Street. Like I say, Lily Street. And Benton Street in Sheridan. Matter of fact, one of the houses I used to own, they tore it down. They tore the house. It was a house on the corner of Benton and Sheridan, right down the corner. They tore it down. I lived where they have, I'd say about 10 different places. I mean, in my life, in those 50-some years, at least 10. So that's a lot of moving.
That is.
But now I think I'm pretty well settled.
Well, great.
All right.
Well, we won't take up any more of your time. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, I would say it was a really good interview. So that's some good stuff.
I sound like I think I was a little boring.
Oh,
no, at all.
Not at all. Believe me, not at all.
Okay.
So.
Thanks for coming on.
Well,
we
thank you for
appreciate you having
us. We
us,
appreciate
yeah.
it, so.